Welcome to the Faith Together podcast from the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. If you believe that passing down Christian faith is essential for the next generation, you are in the right place. Enjoy conversations with guests who are faith practitioners, parents, caregivers, pastors, counselors, and many more. You'll enjoy practical tools and community for passing down Christian faith to your children and grandchildren.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Faith Together podcast. I'm Lindsey, and I'm joined today with my co-host, Leon. Hi, Leon.
Hi, Lindsey. Good to see you today.
Good to see you, too. Leon, I'm excited that we're continuing in a new series we started last week called For Families.
Right, and this series is kind of highlighting other organizations that have received the same Lilly grant that we have received. And last week we talked with Ellie Marquin.
That's right.
At Ignite Parenting. They're part of the Assemblies of God Church. And she shared with us a lot of things that they're doing. In fact, I don't know if you remember this, but I was a little overwhelmed when she began listing all the things that they're doing, and especially as she referenced the things on her website. And you may remember I asked her how much staff she had
Yes.
because I don't know how she was doing all the stuff she was doing, but it was a really great conversation. And if you weren't able to listen in on that, we'd recommend you go back to last week's episode. You can find that on our website at centerff.com, or you can find it on all the major web podcast platforms.
Yes, absolutely. So for our listeners that are just jumping in today, we're so glad that you're here. And as we continue in this series, just a little background that we are interviewing our partners, as Leon said, from the Lilly Endowment that has allowed for us to bring on the Center for Faith and Family. But we're not the only ones, right, Leon?
That's right.
There's
in
so
fact,
many.
I think, if my numbers are correct, I think I'm hearing 120
I think so.
participants in this grant.
Yes.
Which is quite an investment on the part of Lilly, and we're really appreciative of that.
Yeah. So today we have another friend joining us who we got to meet at Children's Pastors Conference.
That's right.
In January. If you all remember, Leon and I got to take a group of students from Olivet to the Children's Pastors Conference. And part of that experience for those students that were ministry majors was also to run the booth for the Center for Faith and Family.
Yes, and that was our first release of our at the time brand new curriculum.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we were really excited and got a great response from people.
Yes. So part of that time when we were at the booth, you're in that resource center where all these booths are.
Oh, it was overwhelming.
Hundreds,
yeah.
Yes, hundreds of booths. And you kind of get to know people in the resource center because you spend so much time there.
Yes, because we were like, usually you go to a conference like this, you go to workshops,
Right.
You hang out with people, you do things, but we were there particularly for our center and the booth that we were at. And so that exhibit hall was open from morning to night. Yeah. And so someone had to be at the booth at every moment of the day. You and I kind of took turns, and sometimes we were there at the same time, but our students filled in as well. So yeah, it was a very busy time. And you spend a lot of time with people from other booths, especially like during workshops when there's not a whole lot of people in the exhibit hall.
Yes.
You get to know people from other projects.
Yes. So one of those people we got to know, her name is Becky McAllister. She's going to join us here in just a minute. And Becky represents Kids at Heart International. And so they had a booth at CPC. She came and visited us and said, hey, we have the Lilly Endowment. You have the Lilly Endowment. We should talk. And so we're excited to have this conversation today. So before Becky jumps on, I have a little intro for her just to give you guys a little background on who she is and her organization, Kids at Heart. So Becky has served with Kids at Heart International for the past 10 years and currently serves as interim CEO. She's passionate about equipping those who teach and love children. She finds joy in connecting with Christian communities worldwide, offering encouragement, resources, and training. She's committed to fostering sustainable ministry growth, and Becky focuses on developing and strengthening networks of trainers for children's ministry in every region. With a heart for seeing children's lives transformed by the Holy Spirit, she envisions expanding Kids at Heart's reach, creating resources to support diverse communities, and empowering ministries to nurture children in their faith. So today it is our pleasure to have Becky McAllister from Kids at Heart International. Welcome, Becky.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here with both of you.
It's wonderful to have you here. We are so thrilled to hear all about your ministry with Kids at Heart International. Can you just tell us and our listeners a bit about Kids at Heart and what you love so much about leading in that organization?
Yes, of course. So Kids at Heart is a global Christian organization. We do have training networks across the world. We desire to inspire individuals to deepen their relationship with God. And then with that deepening of their relationship, they are given the opportunity to share their faith across the generations. And that is our desire in our trainings. So we bring trainings to different networks and regions around the world. And we believe that through this training, it's interactive, and we try to give them different spiritual formation practices that they are using to build a rhythm in their own life of deepening their relationship with God. But through that, we really hope that we give them the adaptations of those spiritual practices that they can take back into their families and into their churches. And as they're on this spiritual journey with God, deepening that relationship, they are bringing in their children in that journey, and they're bringing in the children in their ministries into that journey. So our training is for the adults, but our desire is helping them to build that understanding of what it means to walk with God, and then also be able to do that with their children. So our training involves their relationship with God, and then adapting those spiritual practices that they can do with children, so that their families and communities and churches are growing together in that journey.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. You know, Lindsey, as I listen to Becky share, I'm reminded how many of us are kind of on this same track. We're going about it by different ways, but we're all on this mission of trying to equip parents to be all that God's created them to be, so that they can impact the lives of their children. And Becky, I appreciate that what you're doing is international. And it's more than just what you're doing for this grant, but what you're doing on a bigger scope. So for this particular grant, share with us how Kids at Heart is utilizing the Lilly Endowment grant for this parenting and caregiving initiative.
Yes, definitely. So with the Lilly Endowment, because it is focused in the United States, what that's helping us do is to focus a little more in the United States. What do our churches look like here? What do our families and different cultures look like here? And a couple of things that we're learning through this is that there are a lot of churches who don't have the resources that some of these bigger churches have. They don't have the ability to purchase the curriculums that are out there. And so we want to come in and bring our training into those areas where they don't have the resources that you can normally get from a larger church with the funding. So the Lilly Endowment is allowing us to reach into those churches and partner with different organizations like church planting organizations and rural missionary places that are like feeding into these under-resourced churches. So the Lilly Endowment is allowing us to develop our materials, setting up new materials as we listen to these under-resourced churches, these new organizations that we're talking to. It's allowing us to listen to them and say, what do you need? How can you build your church ministries, but build your family so that they are more comfortable in sharing their faith with children? Because we fully believe that children can hear from God, that children can have that relationship with God. And we've actually seen that a lot of adults don't necessarily understand that or believe that.
Wow.
So when we're able to come into these churches or these organizations and talk to them and say, what do you need? A lot of times they'll say, well, we don't really know what to do with with the kids, or we have such a small church, our kids aren't even really in, we don't really have a Sunday school. What do we do with them? So our materials are given to help the adults again first teach to gather their spiritual formation practices to understand what their relationship looks like with God. And then that can go across the church congregation, where they are able to then bring the children into that journey.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
great.
like a ripple effect,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about what you've shared is you're listening to these churches. Oftentimes when curriculum is being developed, it's kind of developed almost in a vacuum. We don't really. We think we know what's best, and so we create something and then expect everybody to use it and have access it and make it applicable to their situation. But listening to them first and then creating curriculum and other resources in response to what they are needing is a great approach.
It really is. And you're so right that there are so many churches in the United States that are looking for resources but don't have the financial support to buy, the top curriculums that are out there, or even event packages, whatever it might be. We saw that at Children's Pastors Conference. I mean, you just hear from leaders all over the world that are looking for helpful resources. And so what a gift that you're able to come alongside churches that need it and that are in all sorts of different cultural contexts. That's a really beautiful thing. And I would imagine that feels really rewarding to your team, since you do spend a lot of time globally, that you're able to come into these different cultures right here in the U.S.
Yes. And it's helped so much for, like, they give us some of their own ideas to say, hey, yeah, you're talking to these churches that have the same culture we have. So it's definitely helpful. But it also has given us the opportunity to include more parts to our curriculum that talk about trauma, or like even just how life experiences affect our view of God as adults, and then what does that mean for our children? How does it affect their view of God? I think we all know that children's view of God starts at such an early age. And if we are able to help them understand what that looks like through their life experiences, that's a wonderful way to bring children closer to God. But we've also are looking into bringing our generations back together on this journey. That is not just the parents, it's not just the children's ministry leaders or volunteers, it's the entire family. It's even those, the generations that maybe they don't have grandchildren, but they have a faith story that they can share with children. So a lot of that is what the Lilly Endowment is helping us to have conversations about, and see how we can give them resources and understanding of what spiritual formation actually is in the life of their own journey and with their children.
That's wonderful. And speaking of resources, I'm wondering what resources have you found helpful as you've come alongside all the generations, whether it's parents, caregivers, children's ministry leaders? What has been most helpful to you in this work?
Back in 2020, and I know this wasn't with the Lilly Endowment, but this is what has helped us. Back in 2020, when we couldn't do personal trainings, like we couldn't travel, we couldn't meet with churches, God actually gave us a gift to begin building resources for parents and churches to use. And we call it KidZ at Home. They are spiritual practices that are practical and age appropriate for families that they can use at home or teachers can use in classes. So with the Lilly Endowment too, it has allowed us to go, oh, we actually have these wonderful resources already. How can we bring those into these churches? And they're on our website. They're free. So that is one piece. If we've been looking closer into those resources so God gave us these back in 2020. How can we now really use them and with what we're doing? And then we have wonderful connections with different people that are in this same understanding of spiritual formation for children. Vernie Shore Love. I don't know if you've heard of her books.
I do know
Yes.
Vernie. I've met
Yes.
Vernie. She's
Me too.
wonderful. She
Yes.
is fantastic.
Okay, I'm feeling
Yes.
a little left out of the conversation here.
Sorry, Leon. We'll have to maybe
But tell me about her and what she's
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
Well, man, I actually got a chance to sit down with her about a month ago, and we just talked, and it turned out to be like, it was supposed to be like an hour. It turned into be like a full afternoon, but we just talked about her story. But so I won't share her story, but she has just been just has a burden for the children, and God has given her so many different resources of sharing that desire for children to know God. And she's written her probably best-selling book is Spiritual Disciplines for Children. But she has an organization called Character Choice, and in that she has developed even children's curriculum in there. So I'm going to give her the shout out for that. All of this.
Absolutely. And we'll link her resources and the Kids at Heart website as well for our
Great.
listeners that are
Yeah.
interested. We'll have that all linked for you in the show notes.
Yes. Yeah, so we're exploring a little bit of what it could look like for us to just have some more conversations together. So
Yeah, and possibly partner together. That's really
yes,
sweet.
yes,
Yes.
great.
definitely.
You mentioned your website. Can you give that to us?
Yes, it's kids with a Z at heart.org.
Okay, .org. Kids at Heart.
Yes.
Kids with a Z at heart.org. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, wow. So it sounds like you've taken advantage of things that you created prior to the grant and then new things as a result of the grant and are finding places for those in response to the needs that churches are sharing with you. That's fabulous. So tell us what, as you've kind of worked through the grant, one of the things that that we have experienced is there have been surprises along the way, things we didn't anticipate as we did the research and started working with the grant. So what has surprised you as you've been working with the Lilly funds, doing research, providing resources for people? What has surprised you maybe the most, or multiple things that have surprised you?
I would say with our specific project, what has surprised us the most is how difficult it is to get the very adults that we want to help to have the time. In other words, changing the culture or stepping into the culture with the truth that God desires them to know, that He calls them beloved, and then that they can actually then move into what that looks like with their families and children. The conversations are probably the hardest. They're like, oh, we don't have the time to do this. And I understand that. Our world is just filled right now with distractions, with chaos, with busyness. And so our biggest surprise is we're like, oh yeah, we can go have all of these conversations. And we're like, they're too busy. So I think that's our biggest piece, and we're really trying to just help others come in and say, let's slow down a little bit and let's just talk and let's just see what God is saying to you.
Yeah, we understand that because we're experiencing that as well. And we're trying to create things that don't add more things to the parents' plate, but help them to be a little more intentional about what they do.
Yes.
So right now we're recording at our radio station at Olivet, Shine.fm, and Brian is the station manager, and he's also one of the DJs. And one of the things I hear Brian say on the radio quite often is that parents' main responsibility is the spiritual nurture of their children. We get busy with a lot of other things, but there's nothing more important in the life and responsibility of a parent than helping their kids to be followers of Jesus. So I think part of our responsibility, and I'm assuming you are dealing with this as well, is to really help parents understand, we know you're doing a lot of things with your kids, but what you do here is the most essential and important thing that you do in the life of your children.
Yes, and even just help them understand that, kind of like you said, this doesn't have to be a whole program that they're doing. It can just be built into the rhythm of their lives.
Right.
It is just adding in, hey, let's just, as you're sitting down at dinner, having conversations, and where did you see God today? And just being able to build into some specific spiritual practices that they can do on a daily basis. It doesn't change their busyness. It doesn't change the things that they need to do. It just brings God into their life.
Absolutely. And so parents that are listening, or coaches, teachers, wherever you're at listening today, we want you to know that Kids at Heart has some great resources for you to have those spiritual conversations with your kids. And I think a lot of times, Becky, like, parents look at their lives and they think, well, I have academic, tutoring for my kids, and I have them in this traveling sports team or in this dance club, or we have all these piano lessons going on. Like, I'm taking care of all these specific developmental regions that they need help in. And also, we get counseling once a month. Like, we're doing all these things emotionally and academically, but we can forget the spiritual side.
Yeah, we go to church, and church takes care of that for us. Yeah, and we gotta change that perspective.
We do. And what I think is so wonderful about Kids at Heart, I've shared with you prior that I had a good friend that was part of the Kids at Heart team, is that you guys do such a good job of communicating, spiritual formation for kids in practical ways, and what that can look like. So I would just really encourage all of our listeners to jump on your website and see those Kids at Home resources and put them into practice, because they're simple yet really helpful for just opening up the conversation with one another at home about God. So we're so thankful to have you here today, Becky. Thank you so much. And we just wish a blessing on Kids at Heart International and all that you guys are doing with the Lilly Endowment here in the U.S., but also all over the world. So
thank you so much. And it's been wonderful to talk to you and be able to share what God is doing through this ministry. We are very excited.
That's great. So again, the website for Kids at Heart is kids with a Z at heart.org. Again, thank you, Becky, for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great to talk with you too.
All right. Well, once again, boy, this is exciting to hear what other groups are doing. We've kind of been a little bit siloed in this journey, Lindsey.
Yeah.
Every organization kind of doing their own thing when it comes to working on these projects. And it's nice to hear what others are doing, to be inspired by the things that they're doing, and also to find some commonality in our approach. And I'm kind of excited that maybe we're blasting the Christian community with all these organizations that are intended to help parents pass their faith to their kids. And hopefully there will be resources available for parents who want to take different kinds of approaches to this journey.
Yes.
Which I think is what I'm hearing a little bit when I hear these resources that are available.
Yeah, because we know that all families come from different backgrounds, have different resources available to them, different time frames available to them. So, yeah, it just matters that we start somewhere, whatever that looks like, and however it can fit into your life.
And we want to remind you of the resources that we have made available to you at centerff.com. We currently have 3 different video-assisted, I don't know what the language is we're using that, video-assisted curriculum where there's a video teaching and then a lot of small group discussion around a short video that would teach on a particular topic. And so just a reminder that we have Foundations of Faith for people who want to better understand what it is we believe as followers of Jesus based on the Apostles' Creed. Mm-hmm. And we have Healthy Parenting, which talks about how as parents, our own health in a lot of areas of our lives is important in the passing off of faith to our children. And then the last one, which of course we're very, very excited about and have been talking a lot about, is our screen safety series on how to help your kids be safe on their technology.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And all 3 of those series you can do with a small group at your church, or if you have a neighborhood group, whoever it might be, a mom's group, you could do it together, or you could do it on your own. At home as well. So it's best in community, but they're there on our website for you to use and to
it's
share.
all free. All you have to do is register, and you have free access to all of those resources. Well, thank you again for sharing this time with us. We appreciate your willingness to join us and to think that we have something worth listening to.
Yes. So, every week we're like, will there be listeners?
Yeah.
Without
you, we're just 2 heads talking. So that's good. So thank you. We appreciate you and hope that you have found some help today, and that these resources that are available to you will help you in the journey of passing your faith to your kids. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and give you peace. You've been listening to the Faith Together podcast from the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. Sign up for additional resources at centerff.com. When building faith, we are better together.